Police in southern Kentucky worked to serve more than a dozen drug warrants this morning. They started early in Whitley County, fanning out to bring in dealers of oxycodone and meth. WYMT's Phil Pendleton spoke to police about their efforts.
This was called Operation Ice Melt, as meth is also known as ice, and they're hoping to melt away some of the illegal drug problem here in this community. They started very early this morning, around 6 a.m., and by noon they had rounded up about 13 dealers of illegal drugs.
They are going to be charged with trafficking in a controlled substance, specifically methamphetamine, and a few of the investigations involved the distribution of oxycodone.
Police say they are wanting to send a clear message that there is zero tolerance in sending this poison into their community. Many of the suspects are natives to the area, selling to people who live nearby. Police also say they seized evidence such as contraband and meth, marijuana, and cash.
Drug trafficking alone leads to other types of crimes, violent crimes, thefts, and if we can infiltrate the drug traffickers, and it will lead us to solve burglaries and thefts.
The Whitley County Sheriff's Department and constables assisted Williamsburg city officers in this roundup, I am told, as they were going to arrest one gentleman. As they were serving those papers, he was literally shooting up drugs into his legs at that very moment. In Whitley County, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
All those arrested were taken to the Whitley County Jail and charged with trafficking in a controlled substance. People in Moorhead have been on high alert today after emails circulated around town threatening two of the town's largest entities. In the email, an unknown person claimed to have killed their family and had intentions to shoot people at Moorhead State and St. Clair Healthcare. Sheriff Matt Sparks says he is confident this is a hoax. He says in the last few years, multiple swatting calls have come in, most of them linked to the same address. While they are still working to pinpoint who is behind the calls, Sparks has a theory for how they began.
A juvenile was on the internet, constantly on the internet, having contact with people from all over the country. And our first swatting call in this county that I'm aware of, like I said, was a couple years ago. And they gave this juvenile's address and said that I'm the father, I've shot my family and killed them, I'm at such and such, come get me, take me out. We respond, obviously, and determine it's a swatting type call. The juvenile wasn't responsible, but it's our belief from the investigation then that people she was talking with on the internet were responsible for that.
Sheriff Sparks says sending so-called swatting calls and messages is a felony, and he is prepared to press charges.
Sunshine worked through the area as we went through the early hours of our Wednesday, but clouds continue to be on the increase later on tonight. That's ahead of the potential for a few showers working in. I-75 at Mount Vernon, you still see some of the sunshine kind of filtered through the clouds, but we're going to continue to see those clouds increase. I-75 in London, a little bit more sunshine, but again, those high clouds continue to work on into the region. Temperatures, well, you remember how cool it was yesterday. And this is where we've increased since yesterday. Some of us 15, 20, not far from 25 degrees warmer than this time yesterday. And that puts us in the low to mid 70s around much of the region. Areas that aren't in the 70s, likely in the middle and upper 60s. We see that throughout the Big Sandy and even into portions of Southwest Virginia as well. Pinpoint Doppler, it's really a clean sweep. I mean, we've got some of those clouds showing up there on the radar as ground clutter, or even a little bit of ground clutter out toward the bluegrass part of the state, but we continue to watch those showers out to the west. Those will move in as we head through tonight. 54 tonight, gusty winds at times with those showers moving in late. I'll have the latest on when the showers move in, when the showers move out, and when the 80s are back in action coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Evan, thank you. Hillbilly Days is officially kicking off tomorrow in Pikeville, but some folks are getting a bit of a head start. Officials say the carnival will be officially open at 6 p.m. this evening, and they welcome folks to come check it out. But officials warn people to be on the lookout for traffic and crowds. Along with the carnival, hundreds of Hillbilly Day vendors will soon line the streets, and first responders in Pikeville are reminding people to steer clear of Hambly Boulevard after 5 p.m.
Try to avoid the city if you can after 5 o'clock. We know people still working. That's understandable. We can get you out pretty quick, but if you have to get down in the city for anything after 5, it's going to take you a while. We're going to have well into the hundreds of vendors, 150 vendors or so, that we've got to park and stage.
Officer Khan also said first responders will have stations throughout the city during the festival, along with roving patrols to ensure the safety of every guest. The most recent session of the Kentucky General Assembly is over, but the conversations are still going. State Representative Bobby McCool and Senator Philip Wheeler met up at the Country Music Highway Museum today to discuss some of the highlights and legislation from this year's session. From road projects to coal severance funding, the Republican representatives opened the floor to questions aiming to get the community more involved with the legislative process.
Bringing that statewide perspective that you get as a state senator or state representative, even though we represent a specific geographic area, I think the important part of those titles is state senator and state representative. So not only do we bring our values and our wish list to the table, but we're there to make sure that the Commonwealth succeeds as a whole.
The event, hosted by the Paintsville-Johnson County Chamber of Commerce today, was one of many planned across the region to touch base with constituents after the General Assembly. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will both be attending the upcoming White House Correspondents' Dinner. It will be the first time the sitting president has attended the annual fundraiser for scholarships since 2016. Former President Donald Trump notably skipped the dinner during his presidency, and the event was canceled in 2020 and 21 because of the pandemic. The dinner is now set for April 30th. The Daily Show host Trevor Noah is expected to headline. More than 40 million Americans owe more than $1 trillion in combined student loan debt. This week, the Department of Education announced fixes to the system that could bring relief or even immediate forgiveness to millions of borrowers. Experts say they don't know exactly how many people will get their loan balances wiped clean. CBS's Natalie Brand spoke with one borrower who says the announcement makes her feel hopeful after a decades-long battle with her student loan servicer.
The system was rigged for people like me.
Adjunct professor Justine Hope Blau, who graduated film school in 1991, says she borrowed $39,000, but now faces around $260,000 of debt.
I'm 66 and it keeps growing.
She's among the millions of Americans still struggling to pay off student loans. This week, the Department of Education says it's now taking action to help address what it calls historical failures in the administration of federal student loan programs.
The history of this program is that it has been rife with abuses and problems, both on the servicing side and on the Department of Education side.
Persis Yu of the Student Borrower Protection Center calls the acknowledgement step one. The Department of Education says it will review payment timelines and history for borrowers enrolled in public service loan forgiveness plans and income-driven repayment plans. The changes are expected to give 40,000 borrowers immediate forgiveness, and at least 3.6 million borrowers will receive 3 years of additional credit towards income-driven repayment forgiveness.
Unfortunately, the department has not given a timeline on when borrowers will find out what happens. For right now, the answer is to be patient and wait.
Blau still feels misled by her servicers, who she says never told her about income-based repayment options.
Don't leave us behind. We shouldn't be saddled with huge debt for the rest of our lives.
She now urges caution to anyone thinking about taking out a student loan. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
The Student Borrower Protection Center advises making sure your information and case is up to date with the Department of Education, since they will be using that information to determine credits. Coming up on First at 4, some areas of the world could be heading toward what scientists are calling an insect apocalypse, which could impact global food production.
And our summer preview is on the way as we head through the second half of the work week. I've got the full details on the way next.
WYMT News app offers alerts on breaking stories as they happen.